Good morning, everyone. It is October 21st, and I hope you all are well. My name is Janice Courtcamp. I have been an online activist and on-the-ground citizen journalist regarding the war in Syria, and I've learned some very hard lessons and important lessons over the years of doing that, and I wanted to create this video. I'm calling it Tips, Tricks, and Traps for online social media activists. It's primarily for my own peace of mind to get these ideas down while I'm thinking about it, to help me to be more effective. We all have our own personalities. We all have our own goals of what we would like to achieve as social media activists. We have different audiences. And so a lot of these things may not pertain to you or to anyone else, but hopefully there will be some information here that is valuable to you. When the first personal computers started coming out, that was when I got involved in the industry, and we had these books called Tips, Tricks, and Traps for MS-DOS, Lotus 1-2-3, WordPerfect, all these basically obsolete things now. But they were very helpful books because they were written by people that had really run these programs through the ringer and had a lot of valuable advice to help those of us who weren't as familiar with them to get up to speed. So that's why I'm calling this Tips, Tricks, and Traps, and I hope you'll stay with me. Thanks. So yeah, the first tip would be, what am I doing here? And sometimes, some days I'm sure you're like me where it's like, okay, what am I doing here? And other days it's like, what am I doing here? Just what am I doing in this crazy scene? So the first important thing, as you learn in any writing class or anything like that, is identify your purpose and your audience. My purpose long ago, I decided, was to first normalize Syria for people in the U.S. and the West, or anyone who wasn't familiar with it. That was my real heart, because I had fallen in love with this country and the people in it. And secondly was to share the truth via research, direct observation, and experience about the war. And this has remained my focus for the last many years. So, some people have their take is to limit their Facebook page to friends only. And there are big advantages to that. I'm not going to lie about, I'm not going to lie, period. But I'm not going to underestimate how powerful that can be, because you're accumulating friends slowly. You know that they have an interest in the topics that you're dealing with. They generally are open to learning about these things. And, it's more of a networking to reinforce and to educate each other on greater and greater aspects or depth into these topics or your topic. I chose the other route. I've made everything public, and that was hard because I'm generally an introvert, very private person, and to kind of be out there in public where not just friends or followers can see what I'm writing about or sharing, but anybody, anybody can go on my page and read my posts or comment or react. And, that's taken a little getting used to, but I made that decision early on to have it be public, in order to be able to increase the audience that I was trying to reach. And the audience I'm trying to reach are the people who, I've said before, are like myself 10 years ago. So I'm looking for people who are good-willed, who, at least consider themselves to be fairly intelligent and informed, who are curious about the world and who maybe are at that point where they're starting to question things that they're seeing, or have been at that point for a long time, either one. And they were just looking for kind of a unique outlet of information about Syria. Not unique in that others aren't doing what I'm doing, but just, you know, me as Janice Courtcamp being out there and sharing my thoughts and posts. So that was, there was a huge, great thing that happened as a result. So, you know, our personal lives tend to be centered around our close family or friends, the people we work with. When I was younger and moved around a lot, I had wanderlust. I wanted to live in a lot of different areas, and so my circle of acquaintances was very small. Just really, it was usually just the people that I happened to work with at that place and time. Now that I'm, you know, since Sid and I got married, we live at the farm where his family lived before us, and you know, we've been here well over 20 years. We have friends from 20 years ago that we still see on a regular basis. Sid actually has friends from that have been friends for 50 years. So we have those long-term friends. We have a lot of personal acquaintances from being involved in the neighborhood, etc. But we also have this huge now group of friends and acquaintances around the world, and it's been fascinating because they represent all kinds of backgrounds and opinions and personal experience, and it's really opened my world up, you know, or the world up to me, I should say, and helped me tremendously in trying to understand people's different perspectives, even if it's on an issue that we may disagree on. I find that most of the time the people that I've connected with online have very valid and thoughtful reasons for their opinions, and I want to hear those. And it doesn't mean that we'll ever come to agreement on that, but we can respect listening to one another and trying to understand. So there are two, you know, those are the two basic approaches, and I think both can be effective in their own way. But in this series, I'll mostly be talking about being out there, really out there in the public. Tip number 2 for me personally is don't get triggered. And, you know, if I could beat this into my head and really practice it consistently, I would be a lot better off. It's getting triggered is what cost me a permanent suspension off of Twitter. Been off there for a couple of years. It's a blessing and a curse. I think I'm a lot kinder and gentler person after getting off Twitter, but I miss being in the, you know, in the real hardcore fights that go on there. But, you know, it's really turning the other cheek. It's taking a breath. It's calming down before responding. One of the things that I love about social media, and this is not just on my page, but as I go out and I comment a lot on, you know, establishment media pages and stories about Syria or political groups or what have you, that I love that you can just pack up and walk away and cool down and respond later, respond another day, whatever, that it doesn't have to be this wham, 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 wham. You can actually take a breath and think about what you're going to say. And I'm not trying, you know, I'm not saying that because, again, you know, some people are very passionate and they get out there and they're really like in the thick of things. Again, for me personally, I found that not to be as effective as the times that I can successfully walk away, think through what I'm going to say, and and put out my answer or reply, what have you, my rebuttal, in the form of a rational, fact-based response as opposed to an emotional, reactive response. And, you know, typically, I think we've all found out that when you're in a debate online with some person who disagrees with you, you know, there's very, very little to no chance, almost zero chance that you would ever convince them to see your point of view. But I always try to be mindful that there are people, or could be people, watching the interchange. And again, for my audience, which I'm hoping to draw in more good-willed, rational, intelligent people into this conversation about how we've been lied to about these wars, and particularly Syria, I want to be rational. I want them to see that I'm the one who knows the facts, that I'm the one who is able to articulate my position well and effectively. I'm the one that they can look at and see if, oh, she sounds like she might be a trustworthy, credible person on this. That's what I'm hoping to achieve, and that's who I'm hoping to be as a person and as an activist. So, you know, watch those triggers, and it's one of the traps that we'll be talking to later, that often that triggering is done to, you know, they attempt to do it deliberately. There are people out there that do that. There are the keyboard bullies that do that try to get you triggered. But, you know, I'm practicing, like, even for other friends' posts, if it's something I disagree with, you know, keep scrolling all day long, keep scrolling, you know, just let them have their say, let them have their say, let them have their say. If there's something that I want to reply that maybe I disagree with, do it try to do it in a very respectful way, because I want to be online the kind of person that I want to be face to face, and that's somebody that's willing to listen, but, you know, standing firm in my own, what I know to be true as well. So that's tip number 2, watch those triggers. So yeah, tip number 3 is, you're like the gambler in the old Kenny Rogers song. You've got to know when to hold them, you know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to run. And this is, you know, learning timing, learning when to just shut up, learning when to be brief, learning when to be more explanatory. This is tricky. It's certainly not something I've mastered by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm working on it. You know, some people want a very detailed explanation with references. You know, no problem. Some of my posts are like that, or my replies. Other people want something, you know, basically they want a meme, or they want a very, very short idea, and that is all they want to digest. That's all they want to deal with. And when you're debating online with someone, you know, in the beginning, I used to do the tactic of bludgeoning people, literally hammering them with information as a reply to a comment or a media post or what have you. And I learned finally that that was not at all effective. I have never, ever once in all of these years come across somebody after I put up, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 sources in response to their comment. Nobody has ever come back and said, gee, those were very interesting. I've looked at all of them, and, you know, you have my attention. Nope, never worked. So I have canned that approach. And now, if I'm debating somebody, you know, I'm trying to practice just asking them if they would consider looking at just one source, here's one resource, short article, short video, whatever, would you consider looking at? And then if you're interested, I'm here for questions. And I have many, many more, that I'd like to share with you. And, most of the time it's going to be no. Sometimes, those victory days, you get somebody saying, yeah, I'll look at that. So, I'm practicing that. I'm practicing on my posts to have some of them very explanatory and being able to really share something that I want to share. Other times trying to give a very simple piece of information. And, there's no pleasing everyone. I've learned long ago not to try to please people, because if you do something short, they'll say, well, you didn't mention this, 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 and this. And if you do something long, people say it's too long, I don't want to read it. They're both fair things to say, but that's why I do this every day, is because I'm trying to create a case over time and put out things in different ways that might resonate with different people. And this goes back to, what are we doing here? There's a language issue. And the language issue is learning kind of having an instinct for who you're dealing with. Are you dealing with somebody? Most people are going to be either right or left. Here in the U.S., they're going to be Democrat or Republican. Thankfully, more and more people are breaking out of that party polarization, but it's still the norm. So I try to figure out, where they're coming from, what might be important to them, what might be one particular aspect of what I'm trying to say that might make them more willing to listen to what I'm saying. So if somebody is, obviously interested in the environment, then, war affects the environment. It's the worst. War destroys the environment. If it's someone who is very concerned about children, for example, I have to talk to them as someone also who cares very deeply about children. If somebody's purely cerebral and all they care about is, facts, facts, facts. Well, I've got the facts. Let's state one fact that might catch their attention. So I'm trying to learn to respond to whoever it is I'm talking with in a way that is more likely to get their interest. And again, not being, I'm trying to be, I am a genuine person. I just am who I am, and I'm not trying to be fake. But I am trying to reach new people. So I want to share the truth in a way that might make them more interested. And, again, one of the benefits of social media is you can just walk away. And, I'll have that song in my head, let it go, let it go. That most of the time, in fact, for me, virtually all of the time, I am not dealing with anyone, I'm not speaking to anyone who is any kind of decision maker or anything. I'm dealing, my activism is person to person, normal person to normal person. And, it'll just get to a point, I might give it a few minutes, a few interchanges, and then just say, hey, thanks for the discussion, and take care, wish you well. See you around there, buddy. I have found that it is very effective, and it feels good to just thank somebody for having a discussion on those times when you actually can have a human-to-human interchange. Somebody is asking a question without being nasty or trying to insult you or accuse you. If you're just having a real conversation, to just thank them for that. I say, obviously we disagree on this, but I appreciate just having a conversation, a discussion, and it not being nasty. So, again, take care, wish you well, blah, blah, blah. And that has actually proven to really, I've had people come back later, maybe not right away, but maybe a week or a month down the road, and again, involve in a discussion and a little bit of softening next time. So that has proven, that there are some positives there. So no one to hold them, no one to fold them, no one to walk away. And some people, like we'll talk about in traps, just run away. Thanks. This is one of the best pieces of advice I've ever had in my life. It came from a woman who was teaching golf in the community college where I was going, and she said that to the class, and we were all like, what? Because we were all used to the practice makes perfect line. And the obvious lesson is that if you're continually repeating things that aren't the best, whether it's the best golf stroke and grip or whatever, or doing things online that are not proving effective, or just constantly reinforcing behaviors and things that might not work. And so I've been trying to really assess how things are going continually along the line. And I think the hardest part about being an activist, doing this kind of stuff, and I'm so thankful that there are so many people who are doing it, is that, we tend to be impatient. I sure know I am. When I first started researching Syria back in 2012, and especially after I started going in 2016, I was just so sure in my mind that all people had to do was hear these truths that I was sharing with them, and they would turn around and get involved and be as really as angry as I am about what's been going on, and really determined to change this. And I've realized that doesn't happen. We want to see justice. We want to see freedom from oppression for people like the Palestinians and others who have been suffering. We want to see friends safe and prospering. We don't want to see the people getting killed and displaced from their homes in these wars, and the children suffering, and the just all of the horrible things that go along with it. And we want this to change. Not just today, we wanted it to never be the case, or to change a long time ago. And, in our frustration, that can often be just rage. I get enraged at a lot of this stuff. And, I get impatient with people. And I'm realizing that the world doesn't work that way. And we have to decide individually if we're going to live in that rage and that frustration, that impatience, and just get more and more angry with people that aren't seeing our point of view, more and more volatile and attacking, and all of these things. If we're going to, it's just we can't take it anymore. We want people to change now. They've got to see. We're just going to pound it into them that they've got to change. And it, in the periods that I've been in that kind of mode, one, I can't write worth a darn. Two, I'm miserable. And again, it's a question of effectiveness, and also appreciating what life we have. And so I'm trying to do better and practice more of enjoying, the joys of life. Those are, for me, the true treasures of life, are the times of joy, and not living out of rage and frustration, and realizing that as obvious as some things are to me, they truly are not to other people. And there are a lot of reasons for that. And, I think that's one of the advantages of perhaps being more out in public, and not reducing my sphere to people just who think like me. That's, these are weird times. They can be kind of frightening, and so I can totally understand that. I'm not trying to convince anyone to just get out there and be in the public. That's everybody else. It's everybody's decision to make. But one of the blessings in it for me has been to be able to realize just how small often the numbers are of people who really are aware or are informed. And to me, that speaks to the necessity of reaching more and more people. So for me, I have to be out in the public sphere, and I have to try to always engage with new people, and that's been become, a real goal of mine. So I'm practicing that. And, I just want to encourage people to keep up the good fight, to be kind, but to be clear, and never give up. These are long, long, long wars we're fighting, and there aren't any easy answers. There's no quick answers. We might have plenty of what seem like quick and easy answers, but that doesn't mean that's going to happen in real life, in reality. And we have to come to grips with that, in my opinion, and modify our strategy accordingly. So that's it for this episode of Tips, Tricks, and Traps. This is all about tips. Again, it's mostly for me, trying to really pound into my head what I believe works best for me, and would love hearing from you as to what you found effective in what you're doing. So take care. I wish you well, and keep on trucking. Bye-bye.